Good morning, Facebook. Hope everybody is having a great week thus far. I'm Kim Kelly, Parts and Service Director for Audi Hampton, again with Kevin Krantz, Mercedes-Benz Shop Foreman, and Larry Snyder, our Audi Shop Foreman. We are still talking about maintenance, and today we are going to talk a little bit about filters, a little bit about AdBlue, which is for the diesel. And what was the other thing, Larry, we're going to talk about?
MPIs.
MPIs, which is a multi-point inspection, the 27-point inspection we do on your car every time we have it in for service. So I'm going to just let you guys have at it. Kevin, are we going to talk filters? Or
We'll start with filters.
Okay.
So, like anything, it's a maintenance item, obviously. And they all have various service life. Obviously, oil filter is probably one that everybody knows, getting their oil and filter changed. And our intervals are 10,000 miles or 1 year. So, the filter's job is to clean debris out of whether it be a liquid or the air. We also have cabin filters. I think we touched on a little bit before. Same idea. Some of our cabin filters actually have activated charcoal in them. So they actually not only take particles out, like this time of year pollen, but also if you're fortunate enough to get behind a truck that is bellowing smoke and diesel fumes, the activated charcoal filter does a pretty good job of eliminating all those odors. But air filter maintenance, again, it varies on the engines, usually anywhere from 40 to 60,000 miles. And again, it's the filter gets clogged up over a period of time. These filters are probably anywhere from 10 to 20 micron. It's pretty small filter, and if you go to a parts store and buy an aftermarket filter, you'll probably like the price because they're very cheaply made. OEM stuff is a little bit expensive, but in the long run, it's using the right part for the right application. Last thing you want is to have an air filter fail and have engine damage, or use an aftermarket oil filter that came apart inside the engine, and now you have much bigger problems. So filters in general, again, we go by, Mercedes goes by what we call an FSS sheet, flexible service system, and depending on the year and the model of the vehicle, determines what filters get changed at what service intervals. So I don't know there's much else. It's a pretty straightforward maintenance item. So certainly, again, if you have any questions, that's what we're here for. Come see us, call us. So
cheaper filters, not always a better idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
OEM stuff.
Some of the older ones even have like check valves in them, right? Like they're made specifically for the engine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, you don't want to buy something that's made for a universal application.
Right. Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Washer solvent. Next.
We're going to wash solvent, sure. So let's touch on a couple fluids that we haven't touched on yet. Let's talk about washer fluid or washer solvent. So, what is washer fluid? People, it's getting kind of pricey these days, I've noticed. And, it used to be you get it for 99 cents a gallon. Now it's, $3, $4, $5 a gallon sometimes. But anyways, so just so you know, I can't really speak on what is in every washer fluid out there, depending on the manufacturer. I can tell you a few things to look for. If you go to buy washer fluid and it says it has a freeze point of 32 degrees, that means it's pretty much water. 32 degrees Fahrenheit is what the temperature the water freezes at. So you know that for sure it's going to be mainly water. And you know it's going to be probably blue dye or yellow dye or whatever dye they put in it to make it whatever color it is. It probably has some surfactants, detergents of some sort for cleaning, but that'd be about it. On the other hand, if it has a negative 35 degree Fahrenheit rating, then you're going to find it's not just water. It's going to be methanol, possibly ethylene glycol, and water. And of course, once again, you'll have the surfactants, detergents, and dye, whatever dye they put in it. So be careful. If it's got a freeze point of 32 degrees and it's nice and pretty blue and it's $3 a gallon, it's pretty expensive for dyed water, So be careful what you buy. It's not all the same. Some of it is actually, you can look on the label, it'll say, whether it's got methanol or ethanol glycol or whatever happens to be in it. They're not all made the same. The methanol is utilized, and ethanol glycol is more for a freeze protection. Methanol freezes at negative 143.7 compared to 32 degrees Fahrenheit for water, and it's a very good cleaner in itself. The methanol and the ethylene glycol are also very good cleaners, not just a surfactant that's in there, the detergents or what have you. So they're not all made the same. It's not just water. It shouldn't be just water anyway. I can't say that every manufacturer, puts quality components in their washer fluid, but be careful what you buy. You may find that you're buying blue water. Read the ingredients.
So obviously around here we don't have the minus 10, minus 20, minus 30 degrees that you encounter further north, but we do have some clients that live up north for part of the year, then come further south, and occasionally we will run into a complaint that the windshield wipers are smeary or don't work correctly. And lo and behold, upon a little further investigation, because the vehicle's been up north, we do run in where they pour coolant, antifreeze, ethylene glycol in it. So as much as that does a great job of keeping the fluid from freezing, it also doesn't do the greatest job on cleaning the windshield. So sometimes it'll get smeary. So back to what Larry said, be careful what you pour into the washer tank. Obviously, if it's something chemical based, when you hit the windshield washer, it hits the windshield great, but eventually when you turn your wipers on, it ends up on the paint surface, whether it be on the roof or the sides or the doors.
Absolutely.
So
Or the car behind you. I hate that when I'm driving down the road.
So
Sprays
little
everywhere.
things like that
Right.
To be concerned with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and absolutely. In the winter months, a lot of people just add water. People just pour water in their washer jug, in a washer reservoir. I mean, I'm not saying you can't get away with that, but the reality of it is that if it does drop below freezing outside and that freezes, that water, as you know, when it freezes, it expands. It'll break the washer jug. It'll ruin the washer pump. It'll break the lines. It causes a lot of damage, and it's just not that cheap to fix. What seems like it wouldn't be very expensive to fix is very expensive. You can cause a lot of damage. So try not to use just water. If you need to top it off, that's one thing. But if it's, it's not really what belongs in there. It's really not what belongs in there. So.
Yep, damage. You're right. That's a good point.
Causes damage. It can.
Well, we do get,
Some of our washer systems can run into the thousands to repair because of the tank and the pump and the lines.
Well, our washer systems now, the washer system is cleaning the windshield. It's cleaning the back glass. It's cleaning the laser sensor. It's cleaning the headlamps. We got washer nozzles coming out all over the place. We really do. Sometimes when you're checking the washer system, you make a heck of a mess because it's coming out all over. And it's coming out the front and the sides, and you got washer fluid everywhere. So it's very important that you use the correct washer fluid. Get a name brand. Something you feel you can trust. If you wonder what's in it, roll it around the back and look and see what's in it. Read it.
Label is key, no question.
Absolutely.
All
So
right.
from there, you want to get on to AdBlue?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right.
For those that own a late model diesel, I think you probably all are familiar with AdBlue. AdBlue is a synthetic ammonia that has a separate reservoir, usually in the back, and it runs anywhere from 5 to 7 gallons. And the idea is to have a reservoir big enough that you can drive under most conditions and not run low before your service is due. So the idea was to make the reservoir large enough that you could make it to your next maintenance service without a warning light coming on. AdBlue is basically injected into the exhaust system. It's designed to have a chemical reaction in the SCR cat as a component in the exhaust system, and it takes nitrogen. What is it? It takes nitrogen oxide, NOx, which is a chemical pollutant, and it actually converts in this chemical reaction in the SCR cat the AdBlue helps promote the chemical reaction. It actually turns it back into nitrogen and oxygen. And of course, all byproduct of combustion, of course, is also water. So that's the idea. Those that own a diesel probably are very familiar with all of the check engine lights and problems associated with AdBlue. Probably one of our more common problems. It's a little bit low, or you get the warning light to pop on, and you don't have any AdBlue to put in the tank. You're like, crap, what do we do? And somebody says, oh, let's pour water in there.
Don't do that.
So, again, not the thing that you want to do, but I get it if you're in a bind and in a situation. Every situation obviously is different, but part of this chemical reaction is that it has two sensors in the exhaust, or basically like an O2 sensor, and it measures the before value and the after value. And so AdBlue has a certain density or content of the fluid, and of course if the content is correct, then the chemical reaction takes place. So you might have 600 parts per million NOx in front, and after the chemical reaction takes place, you might have 150 parts per million. So the computer can see that the NOx is being reduced. So if we pour water in there and dilute our AdBlue, now it comes in at 600 and it may leave at 600 because there's no chemical reaction taking place with water. So, and then of course the check engine light.
Then you got check engine light.
The AdBlue problems, multiple fault codes, and some of our later cars actually have they've added a tamper code. So if you just go in there and try to erase the code without properly processing it, it sets another code which now doesn't allow you to erase anything. And if you're really lucky, it's
Right.
in a no start. It's in a countdown mode,
Yep.
which only gives you a couple of starts before it actually will lock out the starter motor. So you will not be able to start the car if you run out of AdBlue fluid. So the moral of the story is, if you have a problem, come see us. Don't add anything that doesn't belong in there. And obviously, the sooner you can get it to us before it gets into the countdown mode, the better things will turn out.
Absolutely.
But it can be quite a mess at times.
So it gives you fair warning.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So again, the idea is under ideal conditions, you should never see the light. Or maybe, if you do a lot of stop and go driving, you're going to use a little more than someone who does all highway driving. But again, the tank should have enough reserve that you shouldn't have to fill it. But if you do own a diesel, take the time to understand when you do get a message and what is required of you, or the other option, give us a call and come see us.
Absolutely. Well, everything Kevin said there is accurate.
Oh.
I'm not that I'm surprised. I'm not saying I'm surprised. I mean, come on. Yeah, that's exactly what it does. It reduces oxides and nitrogen emissions, NOx emissions. That's what it does. That's what it's designed to do. Chemical reaction takes place, like you said, in the SCR catalyst. That's how it works. Simple as that. The fluid's injected before the catalyst. It travels with the exhaust stream into the catalyst. Chemical reaction takes place. Oxide and nitrogen is reduced. What comes out the other end is nitrogen and water or oxygen. Absolutely, it's what comes out the other end. Simple as that. So, just to elaborate a little bit on the fluid itself, it's commonly known as AdBlue. You may hear it called urea fluid, or DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, or reducing agent is what we like to call it, or technically it's reducing agent. That's what we call it. When I say we, Audi, of course. From there, I mean, the only thing really I can add to that is I've had customers ask me, or source advisors at times, they'll get asked, how much is too much? I mean, if you keep adding it on a regular basis, how do you know if you're having to add more than you should? How much should you be putting in? How do you know when, you actually got a situation where you're putting in too much or maybe too little? So I've done a little research on that for customer concerns, and it really varies. It varies quite a bit. I had a Q5, an Audi Q5, not too long ago. As a matter of fact, I did a little research, and come to find out, it requires a range of 0.8% to 1.2% of the diesel fuel used. Let's break that down. So if you did 125 gallons of diesel fuel in that particular vehicle, you would use 1 to 1.5 gallons of AdBlue. Now, that being said, because it does change per the vehicle. Has a lot to do with the fuel economy of the vehicle, the size of the engine, towing, the whole 9 yards. It changes.
No, the ultimate stop and go driving.
Yeah, so things change. So I did a little research just to kind of get an idea of what range are we looking at. So I think on the low end is probably 0.8%, and on the high end, all the way up to like even over the road tractors, like big diesel tractors, tractor trailer, you're looking at maybe 3% or a little more. So to a customer, at 125 gallons of fuel used, you're looking at somewhere between 1 gallon of AdBlue up to as much as 3.75 gallons. Now that would be for a big tractor, tractor trailer. So on the domestic side, or what, not domestic side, passenger vehicle side, light duty truck, it looks to me, from what I can tell, it's from 0.8% up to maybe 2%. So if you're in a situation where you're using somewhere between, let's say, 1 gallon every 125 gallons of diesel up to maybe 2.5 gallons of AdBlue for 125 gallons of diesel, you're probably within range. That probably is good. If you find yourself having to add it all the time, like every time you get a fill up or every second time you're putting gas in the vehicle or diesel in the vehicle, you're having to pour in AdBlue, something's not right. That's way too often. We have a situation that we've run into on some of our vehicles where we actually have, when you're pouring that fluid in and you're refilling, we have 2 tanks. We have an actual, what they call a passive tank or a holding tank, just quite large. And we have an active tank, or the tank where the pumps are located. They actually meter the AdBlue fluid. As the active tank gets low, it's replenished by the passive tank or the holding tank. There's a transfer pump that replenishes it. We have a situation on some vehicles where our transfer pump will fail, and unfortunately that transfer pump, when it fails, doesn't turn on check engine light. For whatever wisdom there is to that, the check engine light doesn't come on when that transfer pump fails. So what happens is that small active tank doesn't hold a lot of AdBlue. So what happens is it goes down and it turns the check engine light on that you're low on AdBlue fluid, or the check engine light may not come on. Let's say the AdBlue warning comes on, says to add AdBlue,
Yep.
right? The customer says, well, dang, every time I turn around, I'm pouring that in there. So sure enough, you have an issue. Something's going on. And in our situation, we've had several cases where the transfer pump has failed, and that big holding tank of AdBlue is not transferring the fluid over. So in that situation, you have an issue. So just kind of keep in mind what I'm saying. Like, for every 125 gallons of diesel fuel, somewhere between 1 and 2.5 gallons of AdBlue should probably be considered normal. If you're way outside that, then something's wrong. Something's absolutely wrong, and not always are you going to receive a check engine light. So kind of keep that in mind. Just want to throw that out there because we've had several situations.
Yeah. So one thing I want to come back to, AdBlue is a synthetic fluid, and like a lot of fluids today, it can be corrosive or harmful. And of course, there are warning labels on it. The reason why I bring it up is if you store a partially open bottle in your vehicle and it tips over, you'll see a white spot, and you'll try to clean it, and in a very short period of time that spot will be back. And then you'll also notice after a period of time it will grow and grow and grow. So if you do handle AdBlue and do put it in your vehicle, be extremely careful to be as clean as possible. Do not spill it on anything. If you get it on your clothes, it's probably time to throw them away, because it will. It had been described to me as almost like a living organism, that it continues to expand whatever it gets spilled onto. So and it doesn't seem to, any harsh chemicals, brake clean, carburetor cleaner, any of our shop chemicals don't really seem to phase it. It looks like you've removed it, but in reality it comes back in a relatively short period of time. So
you'll know for sure that it's AdBlue fluid, because when it dries very crusty,
crusty,
white
and
and crusty.
Yep.
It's like, well, good Lord, you know.
Doesn't smell very good either.
No, it stinks pretty bad. There's no doubt
Well,
about
ammonia. So
that. Yeah, it stinks, no doubt. So just touch on one more thing real quick. We'll get off. I guess we'll move on. So as Kevin was saying, if you add water to the system, you're diluting the fluid. So what you need to know is that the fluid itself, I believe the concentration is 62.5%. I'm sorry, that's wrong. 67.5% deionized water to start with, and 32.5% urea fluid.
correct. Yep.
So once you tamper with that mixture, you get it to where it's 80% water, 20% urea fluid. The check engine light's going to come on. The system is smarter than that, you know. And then we're going to get in there and test the fluid and find out that's the case. And then that's not a warrantable situation, so you have to pay to drain the tanks and put the right fluid in it and go through the whole. In our situation with Audi, I have to actually go through a relearn procedure. When you do that, that actually messes with the basic settings. I got to go back through a relearn procedure, so it's going to get quite pricey if you find yourself diluting that with just straight water. It's not something you want to do.
Yeah. Have to drive it to perform a regeneration, which confirms that the system is working correctly. So yeah, it can be quite labor intensive.
Yep, absolutely. So MPIs?
Yeah. So MPI, we use a lot of acronyms and terminology. Multi-point inspection.
Yep.
Kind of what it is. When your vehicle comes into the shop, we actually put the vehicle on the rack and look at a list of your average, all your components that you would expect, right? Tires, brakes, lights, wipers, warning lights in the dash. And basically we capture all of this information on the MPI. So those that have been coming to us for years, I'm sure you're very familiar with the inspection sheet. And when a car's brand new, obviously the tires are good, the brakes are all good, there shouldn't be any fluid leaks, wipers, lights, all working well. And over a period of time, right, 10, 15, 20,000 miles, tires start to wear a little bit, wear out, brakes wearing down. So the inspection sheet documents this each time you come in. So the idea behind it is, if you haven't seen us in a while or have a particular complaint, we can focus directly on that. But while the vehicle's here, we can tell you that your tires are at 5:30 seconds, 4:30 seconds, your brakes are at 4:30 seconds, so that when you're due for your next service, you can anticipate that you will need to spend additional money to, replace the tires or replace the brakes or maintenance service that's due. And so the MPI is kind of not only a health of your vehicle, but also what potential service related repairs or maintenance repairs that be needed in the future. And we can't foresee everything, but we can cover quite a bit with a visual inspection. So what else you got?
Yeah, basically, like you're saying, it's a courtesy. It's free to the customer. Multi-point vehicle inspection, like you're saying. We give it a good once-over. I mean, some of the things you're going to get every time we do it for you is we're going to set your tire pressures, reset your tire pressure monitor if need be. Like we were talking about washer fluids, we're going to top that off for you, and we're going to use real washer fluid. I mean, what belongs in there. I'm not going to put water in there. And we'll top off your coolant, things like that. We don't want you to have to come back because you have a low coolant light on or a low washer fluid light or a low tire pressure monitor or something like that. That we strive to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, occasionally one will slip past us, but we try hard to make sure that doesn't happen. So you're getting some things done, and like I said, washer fluids, $3, $4, $5 a gallon, and we're filling them up for you for free. And we do things for you, and like I said, the service. I think maybe sometimes people look at it like we're just trying to sell them a bunch of stuff, but really, there's a lot of times, I do a lot of MPIs myself, multi-point inspections. I don't sell anything. I set tire pressures, and basically I've got an hour, half an hour in the car, and I've not sold anything. But your tire pressures have been set and your fluids have been topped off. It's given them a good once over. But like Kevin's saying, it's a visual inspection. It's not in depth. We're not spending hours and hours on the car, but we're giving it a good once over, and we know the vehicle. We know what to look for. We know your particular model of vehicle. We know what to look at. So you basically have certified technicians looking at your vehicle for free. Is what it comes down to. On the Audi side, and I can't speak for Mercedes because I just don't know right now. But on the Audi side, we're really starting to push on MPI videos. where our technicians, the guy actually doing the MPI, the multi-point inspection, is going to be doing videos. And the videos are going to be short. We try to keep them about a minute and a half long.
Yeah.
You know, not real long. You know, minute and a half or so. But they're going to touch on. They're going to hit some highlights. You know, maybe touch on why the vehicle's here initially. You know, why'd you bring the vehicle in to start with? Touch on that, and then touch on anything he found, or maybe he didn't find anything. But nonetheless, just you know, give you a little brief overview of what he saw in a video format. So you know that you expect that. You know, that's coming.
Make
know,
you
we're-
feel like
we're
you're
pushing
right
that.
there with the technician.
Yeah, I mean
looking
the
at
actual
your- looking at
actual
your
technician.
car.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and we're working out the bugs on that. You want to make sure that technicians, you know, are you know, introducing themselves, you know, who they are. So now you know the exact technician who's working on your vehicle, you know, by name, you know. We'll try to give them more of a personal feel, you know, and a visual of the vehicle. So now we're not just telling you over the phone; we're actually showing you what we see, you know. So and once again, that's free too.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
so you know, there's no obligation to buy anything. You know, so it's you know, it's a good
Courtesy.
thing. It's a good thing.
courtesy.
Yeah,
just
it's
one of
the,
the
uh,
What more could you
things we
want?
do.
It's how the industry is changing. Technology is giving us
Absolutely.
more and more information.
Absolutely. Yep.
So I guess that's all the time we have for today. Was
That's
that?
what we got.
That's
Yeah,
all?
that's
what we
Okay.
got, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining. As always, if you have comments or questions, please put it in the comments section. We will be happy to answer them or come by and see us. And that's it. Have a great weekend and a great rest of the day. Bye, everybody.